In this video, I'm going to break down the parts and materials you will need to build a 3-string cigar box guitar. We're going to go over some basic tools to get you started, and we're going to go through an assembly of the guitar, including wiring up a pickup with a coil split switch. Hi, welcome to Woodfork Guitars. Thanks for stopping by. First, I'd like to give a really big thank you to all the subscribers. It really means a lot. Now, I've broken this video down into chapters. The numbers are in the description and should pop up on the seek bar. So if you're here just for the coil splitting switch, go to this time code here. You'll see a big screen with a time code that says coil split switch. Now, everything I talk about, dimensions, parts, is really specific to this style of build. Now, this style of build is this style where the neck stops inside of the box. So when I start off, my necks are 1x2. That's what we call them here in the States. It's 3/4 inch by 1.5 inches, which is 19 millimeter by 38 millimeter. The length of your neck wood will be determined by your scale length and how big your box is. Now, whether you get that 1x2 by cutting down a larger plank like this sapelli, or if you have something like this nasty piece of walnut right here, one way or the other, you need to get down to that 1x2, 19 by 38. Now, I also put a heel on my guitars, this right here, which goes inside the box. This length is determined by the box. You can see it stops inside and I get a little bit sticking out of the front. I also have been doing scarf joints. So when I do this, it takes a little bit extra wood to go all the way up into here, as opposed to these plank style headstocks. So this is about 32 inches, this neck length total. My neck lengths average around 32 inches or 810 millimeter. They're all a little different depending on the scale length and the size of the box that you're using. All that considered, you're going to need more than 32 inches. You're going to need a piece for your heel, and you're going to need something for your headstock if you're doing a scarf joint. If you're not doing a scarf joint, you're doing a slab style, just make sure you add in enough. Now, my scarf joints are at a 15-degree angle, which is on the very high end of the angle. You can go as low as somewhere around 7, as long as you get enough break angle to keep your strings down. Now, the neck wood you use can be anything, like this 2x2 pine that I already have cut for a scarf joint, and that is what I use here. This is all one solid piece. So this neck is poplar with a poplar fretboard. This neck is red oak with a red oak fretboard. You can use whatever you want. Don't let anything limit you. Use what you have, because you can always make another one later, and I'm pretty sure if you make one, you're going to want to make another one later. Now, the wood I use for the fretboard, again, is 1.5 inches wide, 1/4 inch thick, which is 38 millimeter by about 6 to 7 millimeter. This one I already have the fret slots cut, and I have the fret markers marked out already. The fret wire I use is Cigar medium. Get them from CB Gitty. It's about $10 for a bag, and it'll do 2.5 guitars. The fret markers can be anything from burnt in with an old soldering iron, screws. You can do something crazy like use an aluminum rod that you're going to end up sanding down forever to get it back to the level of the fretboard. But anything goes. Use your imagination. So the box you use can be anything. It could be an old oil can. It could be an ammo can like Robert Byrd's been doing. It could be a shovel like Justin Johnson does. But in this case, we're just choosing a box. What do I look for in a box? Well, I want something that looks cool. I want it to be in the best shape I can get it in, which this one is in pretty good shape, and it's a pretty cool, unique, I haven't seen it before anyways, design. And this is the one we're going to use. Here's another example. It's a bigger box, and yeah, it's a pretty cool one too, and it's going to be the 4-string guitar. Can't wait for that. On average, the boxes I use are between 8 to 11 inches long and anywhere from 7 to 9 inches wide. That's 200 to 280 millimeter long and 180 to 230 millimeter wide. Now, you don't have to stick to those numbers, it's just a starting point. I mean, seriously, anything goes. So let's talk about tuners. You can use an eye bolt and nuts like some guys have done. You can use salvage tuners like these off of an old electric guitar. You can find them at flea markets, yard sales. You can mix and match them as long as they work. You want them to hold the string tight and stay in tune. That's basically it. You want them to be smooth. Or you can buy store-bought ones like these from MGB Guitars. These are going into the 4-string solos. Now at the other end of the guitar, you're going to need some kind of a tailpiece. Whether you use a strike plate from a door or a hinge, or you decide to go with a one-piece, you still need something to hold your strings. So I made this tailpiece out of aluminum, and it goes back here to hold your strings. Now if you decide to go with a one-piece bridge, this is both, and you have to set it up a little bit differently. Alright, let's talk about the nut and the 0 fret. Now the nut is a grooved piece of wood, holds your strings in place, raises the strings up off of the frets just a bit. And if you're going to use a 0 fret, you're probably going to need some kind of a string guide, like maybe a threaded rod or a slotted piece of wood on the backside. So the bridge is the second point that determines your length, and very important, your intonation. The bridge lifts the strings off the face of the guitar and off of the top of the frets. So if that's where you set your action, how high the strings are. So if you do a lot of slide playing, you might want them a little higher. If you do a lot of fretting, you might want them a little lower. I've been going by Chicken Bone John's 2mm. It's been working out. Now, this is called a floating bridge because it will move back and forth. This is a fixed bridge. When you put it in, you only have a small amount of adjustment. So you have to make sure you put this thing really in the right spot. Alright, let's talk pickups. A very common thing in cigar box guitars is to use a piezo transducer. Now this thing picks up vibrations. It doesn't work like a magnetic guitar pickup. It picks up vibrations. So it'll also pick up you tapping on the box. It'll pick up the box rubbing on your clothes. Sometimes it's a cool thing, sometimes not so much. But you can also use regular electric guitar magnetic pickups, and that's what's going to go into this Pure Evil. Let me see, I already have it cut out for it, and we're going to do a coil splitting switch. You're going to need some tools to put all this together with. So you're going to need a saw. So you can use a Western saw like this, cuts on the push, or you can use a Japanese pool saw, cuts on the pool, and this is a cheap one from Harbor Freight. You're going to need some kind of a saw to cut your neck wood to length and to cut the heel piece. If you're using a fretboard, you're going to need something to cut it to length. You will need a saw to cut the neck slot in your box. Now I like to use this flush cut saw and a coping saw.
Then I use a rasp and sandpaper to clean it up. I do want to try the method that I seen Michael Breedlove of MGB Guitars use in one of his videos. Use a knife to mark out the slot, place the chisel point in the cut line, and chisel away to remove the material for the next slot. Genius.
Now you're also going to need a drill, and no, I don't use that one. I actually use a drill. I actually use a battery powered drill. You're going to have to drill 200 holes, pre-drill holes in the neck if it's a hardwood, maybe down into the lid of your box when you're putting it on. You're going to have to maybe drill holes in the end of your guitar where you're going to mount your tailpiece, so you're going to need some drill bits. Now you're going to need something to shape the neck. You could go as simple as this, like a spoke shave and sandpaper, and you could use a rasp. I built my first couple just with this rasp right here. Now you can use a router and a round over bit. You still might need a rasp, some files, sandpaper. You could do the spoke shave. I actually like to, I'm playing around with the facet method where I use this Shinto rasp. Now you're going to need some layout tools. I find these yardsticks indispensable. They're great for laying out your full length of your body, your neck, where your scale length is, where your bridge is going to be. Tape measures, some kind of a square. I've been finding this thing pretty handy because it's a wraparound. You can get down to micrometers. Use these. These are great. Get down into the small stuff when you need to. I actually cut my neck to length and the scarf joint on a miter saw or chop saw, whatever you like to call it, and using this little jig. You'll see other guys using the same jig for making scarf joints. My headstocks are cut out on the bandsaw. The drills, I'm using Bringo battery operated power drills. I use the drill press a lot when I need to make sure something's straight, something's really square. So you could use basic tools just like they did 150 years ago, or use your power tools, whatever you have. Just use what you have. I just am trying to encourage you to get started. That's the hardest part, get started.
Those tools will get you through a fretless build. If you want to install frets, there are a few more tools you will need. First, you will need to decide on the scale length and get yourself a template. Once you decide on your scale length, you need to get a template to mark out the frets. Now I like this Gen 2 template from CB Gitty, and this one is a 24 3/4 inch scale, which is the same as a Les Paul. Fender Stratocasters are 25.5 inch scale, and Paul Reed Smith is 25 inch scale, and a 23 inch scale is also very popular for cigar box guitars. You can find a free template on the Shane Spiel website, or you can purchase them from CB Gitty and MGB Guitars. So now that you've got everything laid out, you're going to need something to cut the fret slots. I use Cigar medium fret wire purchased from CB Gitty. It has a tang thickness of like 0.023 inches, and they sell a saw that works perfect. I also use a CB Gitty miter box made just for fretboards and necks. Now you can use a square and a hacksaw if that's what you have. To install the frets, you'll need a fret press, if you just happen to have one of those lying about. You can use a hammer, nylon head, Teflon head, brass head, just not a dimple face framing hammer. You will need some kind of cutters, like these end nips. Side cutters will work, it just might leave a bit more filing for you to do. You will need a big file to file the frets flush and square to the edge of the fretboard, and then 35 to 45 degree angle. And you'll need a small file to dress the ends of the frets after you're finished with the big file. Alright, so the next step, you'll need a fret rocker to check for high frets, and a fret sanding block with multiple grits. Now, if you have to take any frets down, you may end up with a flat top fret, and this is where the crowning file comes in. You can purchase really inexpensive tools from Amazon or eBay just to get started, then upgrade the tools as you want when the timing is right for you. Alright, let's put this all together and make a playable guitar. Now I take my piece of wood that I have for my neck, 3/4 inch by 1.5 inches, and I cut the scarf joint on the neck and the headstock. Then I glue some extra wood to the sides of the headstock piece and call them wings, I don't know why. After the glue is dry, I draw out my headstock shape and cut it out on the bandsaw. A little sanding and we're ready for a scarf joint glue up. While the scarf joint is drying, I start work on the fretboard. Now I already know my scale length is 24.75 inches, so I will lay out all 24 frets, then cut the fretboard where I want to later when I'm sizing up the neck for the guitar. So I cut the fret slots, drill the fret marker holes. Now we glue the fretboard to the neck, and at this point I'm usually adding my corner blocks and planning out where knobs are going to be, and after the fretboard is dry, that's when I'll usually glue on the heel. Next I will drill the tuner holes and start shaping the neck with a rasp and a small block plane. And right before final sanding, I add the fret markers and then sand everything one last time. I use the sanded and finished neck to find the size of the neck slot cutout in the box. Cut the slot, test fit the neck. So at this point I'll fret the neck, including the 0 fret and usually the nut. When the neck is this complete, I will do a final fit in the box, pre-drill before my screws, and attach the box and neck. Next we'll install the electronics, pickups, volume, tone knobs, and any switches. And next we screw the box shut, install the tailpiece and or bridge, install the tuners, string it up, and play something. And now I'm saving the best for last. So next I am going to go into detail in the coil split switch and how I installed it in this guitar. So like, share, subscribe, comment, all that really helps the channel and I really do appreciate it. Until next time, have fun. Now what is this coil split switch? It is a switch used to ground out one coil in a double coil or humbucker pickup, which turns it into a single coil pickup. This gives you more tonal variations in the same instrument. I mean, have you seen how many switches are on Brian May's red guitar? I'm just saying. Now it's a personal choice. If you don't know, double coils and single coils sound very different. Double coils are thicker sounding and single coils are thinner. I think double coil pickups are warmer sounding. Single coils can have like a chime to them. Single coils are like spaghetti noodles or stringy, and double coils are like the thick creamy Alfredo sauce you put on top. Or I might be getting hungry. To do this is pretty simple. You just need a switch that is at least a single pole, single throw. Now I got all this information from Dylan Talks Tone YouTube channel, so all the credit goes to Dylan. Thank you, Dylan. Alright, let's take a look at some pickups. Now this pickup is a CB Guitars snake oil pickup. It is a double coil mini humbucker rated at 12.55K ohms, and the output wire again only has a ground and a hot, so we can't coil split this pickup. But when we look at this pickup, we see more wires. This is good. The pickup is an MGB Guitars hot rail pickup. It is a double coil pickup and is rated at 9K. Now these coils obviously are going to be a lot smaller because they're shrunk down to fit into a single coil hole. On this pickup we have a black wire for ground, a white wire for hot, and a red and green that are tied together. Now the black wire goes to ground. The white wire would go to your volume control,
and the red-green wire is the one we want to hook to the switch so we can ground it. So let's see how that works. The black wire is the start of this coil. And it finishes connecting to this red wire. The other coil starts with the white wire and is wound the opposite way. That's what makes it a humbucker. And that coil finishes with a green wire. Now as it sits here, it's just two single coil pickups sitting out of phase. If we connect the red and green wires together, like they have on this pickup, we now have a double coil humbucker. To take it back to single coil, we need to ground out one of the coils. We accomplish that by grounding the green-red wire. Since one coil is already connected to ground on one lead, grounding the other lead takes that whole coil out of the equation. The other coil is connected to the hot wire on one lead and is now grounded on the other lead, making this a single coil. The switch can be anything from a single pole, single throw to this double pole, double throw built into a potentiometer. The red-green wire only needs to float or connect to ground. Now in this guitar is a pre-wired harness from MGB Guitars. That includes a volume pot, a tone pot with a capacitor, which also has a push-pull switch, grounding wire for the bridge, and the output jack. If I was building in bulk, I would buy bulk parts and solder up what I needed, but for me the pre-wired works fine. You can have the switch on the volume pot if you prefer, with or without a tone control. Now I do like the push-pull switch because it's one package, less wiring, it's in the box. So, can we hear the difference? Thank you for hanging out, watching the video. Please like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one. Till then, have fun.